Number 5. The origin of the Illuminati. No doubt you've heard of the Illuminati, the mysterious cabal of influential bigwigs and movers who are allegedly controlling everything behind the curtains to usher in the New World Order. But what do you know about the group's origins? The infamously secret order's origins can be actually traced fairly easily to a university professor named Adam Weishaupt in 1776. He taught natural law at a university in Bavaria. He was orphaned at an early age and was raised by his erudite uncle who fostered his love of knowledge. Adam consumed knowledge heartily and sought knowledge as life's greatest pursuit. He was frustrated by states dominated by religious views, especially his very Catholic homeland of Bavaria. He was starkly anti-Catholic Church, a position not particularly favored at the time. Adam had envisioned a tight group of people who could challenge the church's stranglehold on information, and he saw a formal group in mind focused on illumination rather than suppression. A bit of irony to the group that is now so famous for secrecy and mystery that its original intention was to illuminate people. Initially, Weishaupt sought out the order of Freemasons, believing they might be the men he was looking for, but he was denied entry into their ranks. Frustrated again, Adam chose to seek out his own people in his own path, and dubbed his group the Order of the Illuminati, but based his organization strongly on the Freemasons, borrowing their system of hierarchy, code names, and clandestine dealings. This is largely why people correlate the two groups, and in the founding of the original order, Adam did pluck several Freemasons from lodges to come join, so undoubtedly there was large crossover between both groups. Now, are you looking for illumination? Then you've come to the right place. You've just got to stay subscribed. Let's creep on creeping on. Number 4. The group's disbanding. Unfortunately for a secret society, the original Illuminati became rather notoriously popular. Who wouldn't want to be part of an elite society of the best and brightest? It was for this reason that Weishaupt sought out a bit of exclusivity, wanting men with a strong reputation and well-established social connections and wealth. This habit is what makes modern conspiracists believe that the group contains powerful politicians and people in media positions. Still, despite this restriction, the numbers of the group continued to grow, until eventually, by 1784, there was something 3,000 men in the group. This would end up being the group's downfall, alongside growing schisms between Weishaupt and Baron Adolf von Nige. The Baron was an ex-Freemason who wanted to reformat the Illuminati to even more closely resemble Masonry, instituting a system of 13 degrees of initiation, divided into 3 classes: minor, dirigens, and the third tier of king. Weishaupt was growing contemptuous, frustrated with the Baron's obsession with cultism and ritual, and as such expelled the Baron for the group. After his expulsion, 2 men loyal to the Baron were compelled to come forward to the Catholic Church to report on the group's activity, catching attention to the Duke of Bavaria, who explicitly banned meetings of the Illuminati. The group was disbanded officially, and Weishaupt lost his professorship. Of course, I don't think anyone thinks this is truly where the group ended. Years after the group's dissolution, rumors and hearsay already started to spread, with one of the first recorded conspiracies regarding the Illuminati being that they orchestrated the events of the French Revolution as a conspiracy against the governments of Europe. Number 3. The Independent Order of Odd Fellows. Oh, the Independent Order of Odd Fellows. Well, finally, a secret society that's right for me. How do I gain entrance to this? Well, while I figure that out, I'll mull over the history with you. It's unknown when the Independent Order of Odd Fellows was founded for sure, but the first reference of it ever written comes in 1812 and references George IV. Before he was named Prince Regent of the United Kingdom, George IV had been a member of the Freemasons for a while. He wanted a member of his family to come join the Freemasons with him, and was hoping that his royal connections and purse strings would be able to bypass the lengthy, complicated initiation process. Unfortunately, no one is given such freedoms to bypass Masonic initiation rites. Come on, you should have known that. So George, bittered by an order that wouldn't have him, splintered off to form a rival club, the Independent Order of Odd Fellows. Love the name. Although the website for the order claims that it was started all the way back in 1066, although there aren't as many sources to cite this. Much like the Knights, their guiding principles are the principles of friendship, love, and truth, and its members strive to live by these principles in their daily lives. The organization is non-political and non-sectarian, welcoming individuals from all walks of life and creeds. Are you also getting a bit disappointed that a lot of secret societies on this list have mainly said that they just do like charity work and like helping out around town and getting people the help they deserve? No, come on, where's the secret soldiers? Where's the lizard people living under the White House, where none of this is showing up yet. The Order of Odd Fellows places an emphasis on community service. Its members engage in various charitable activities. They provide relief to the needy, they assist the sick and disabled, they offer scholarships and educational opportunities. Do you guys not conceal any Martians or any UFOs or anything? You just go around giving homes to the elderly and orphans? Gosh, are there any secret societies that are trying to control the world still? Now, regardless of how the Order got its start, the Order is strong and still going today. The club has counted several British Prime Ministers among its rank, Winston Churchill and Stanley Baldwin, to name a few. Number 2. The Patriotic Order Sons of America. Imagine a time when patriotism was at its peak, and everyone wanted to celebrate their love for their country in a unique way. How fitting that I'm filming this on the 4th of July. Happy Joey Chestnut Day, Americans. Enter the Patriotic Order Sons of America, the POSA. This organization, founded in 1847, aimed to promote American values, apple pie, American history, and strengthen the bonds of brotherhood among its members. So it's kind of like the America fan club, you know? Americans love America, by and large, but these guys really loved America. Picnics, parades, all manner of social congregation, so long as that social congregation was about celebrating Uncle Sam's land of the free and home of the brave. Now, I am making it sound like it's a patriotic summer camp. And it kinda is. But it was also about education and the preservation of American culture. They upheld the importance of American history by building historical societies, museums, and libraries to collect and document artifacts and stories from the past, like a time machine to the days of old. Now, like any other secret society, obviously they have to have some rituals and ceremonies. As far as we know, nothing too outright sinister, mostly just initiation rites. If you ask the organization, they'll tell you they're one of the most progressive patriotic institutions in the United States. Now, how progressive they actually are, definitely up for a little bit of debate. In the 1890s, they were only open for white Americans. Today, the order opens its membership to all native-born or naturalized American male citizens who believe in their country, so it's not super progressive. But as far as secret societies go, it seems like they're pretty benevolent and do just want to celebrate the country and not rule it in secret. Or maybe they do, I don't know. And number 1, the Molly Maguires. In the 1870s, 24 foremen and supervisors in the coal mines of Pennsylvania were assassinated. Now, who was behind the plot? The leading suspect was the secret society, the Molly Maguires. Now that's a secret society name. The Molly Maguires were an organization of Irish militants, who it's thought got their names because they frequently used women's clothing as a disguise while carrying out acts. This sounds a lot more like it's just a gang than it does a secret society. I'm pretty sure these guys were the bad guys at Red Dead Redemption 2. Operating primarily in the mid-1860s to 1870s, the group was named after a legendary folktale of Molly Maguire, an Irish nun who was evicted from her home. As such, the Maguires acted as a sort of big brother for Irish immigrants in America, aiming to address harsh working conditions and mistreatment by whatever means necessary. Faced with low wages, long hours, and unsafe working conditions, the Maguires sought to protect the rights and interests of their family through resistance, sabotage, and violence. The organization operated covertly, with members swearing oaths of loyalty and secrecy. Their tactics included coercion, intimidation, and you better believe just a little bit of political assassination. They targeted mine operators, foremen, and individuals they perceived as oppressors within the mining industry. Murders, all of this stuff pretty commonplace. The rise of the Molly Maguires attracted attention from mining companies and the government. The notorious Pinkerton Detective Agency, the actual bad guys from Red Dead Redemption 2, was hired to infiltrate and gather evidence against the group. High-profile trials followed, resulting in the conviction and execution of several Molly Maguires. The trials were marked by controversy and allegations of false testimony, leading to debates about the fairness of the proceedings. But if you know anything about the Pinkertons, it's that they don't really play fair. Today, the Molly Maguires are still sort of a subject of historical interest, serving as a reminder of the complex dynamics between labor, management, and immigrant communities in the United States during the 19th century. I don't really have a joke to end that on. I didn't think that far ahead.
Number 5, Scientology. I figured it was the easiest to kick off today, with the most obvious cult, and personally for me, the scariest. Scientology is a set of beliefs and practices invented by the American author L. Ron Hubbard, who developed a series of ideas that he called Dianetics, which he represented as a form of therapy. Okay, yeah, that's great therapy. An organization that he established in 1950 to promote it went bankrupt, and he lost the rights to his book in 1952. He then recharacterized his ideas as a religion for tax purposes and renamed them Scientology. By 1954, he had regained the rights to Dianetics and founded the Church of Scientology, which remains the largest organization promoting Scientology today. There are practitioners independent of the church in what is called the Free Zone, and estimates put the number of Scientologists at just under 40,000 people worldwide. So, not a lot of people at all, just a small town. Scientology beliefs include reincarnation and that traumatic events cause problematic engrams in the mind. They claim that an activity called auditing can remove the bad engrams. A fee is charged, though, for each session of auditing. Once an auditor deems an individual free of engrams, typically after several years, they are given the status of clear. After being deemed clear, adherents can take part in further activities called operating thetan levels, which require further payments. The operating thetan texts are kept secret for most followers and are revealed only after adherents have typically given hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Scientology organization. If you don't have ridiculous amounts of money to burn, don't worry, they're freely available online on sites such as WikiLeaks. And if you don't want to waste your time, these texts say past lives took place in extraterrestrial cultures. Look, I don't agree with Scientology, but I do agree with aliens visiting Earth. But these involve an alien called Xenu, described as a planetary ruler that existed 70 million years ago who brought billions of aliens to Earth and killed them with thermonuclear weapons. Yeah, I totally believe that. Despite being kept secret from most followers, this forms the essential mythological framework of Scientology's crazy logic? From soon after the formation, these groups have generated considerable opposition and controversy, in several instances because of their illegal activities. In 1967, Hubbard established a new elite group, the Sea Organization, or Sea Org, the membership of which was drawn from the most committed members of the church. By 1981, the 21-year-old David Miscavige, who had been one of his closest aides in the Sea Org, rose to prominence. Hubbard died at his ranch in Creston, California on January 24th of 1986, and Miscavige succeeded Hubbard as the head of the church, a position he holds till this day. If you really want a mystery to solve, try and find David's wife. In 2013, actress Leah Remini, a former Scientologist and vocal critic of the organization, filed a missing persons report with the Los Angeles Police Department concerned about her disappearance. The LAPD allegedly contacted Shelley and closed the case within hours. Despite assurances from Church of Scientology spokespeople that Shelley Miscavige is alive and well, many continue to express skepticism. In 2022, after hearing about an investigation into now retired LAPD Captain Corey Palka about alerting others of confidential police investigations, Remini revealed photographs of Palka accepting a $20,000 check from Scientology for LAPD charities and one of a Scientology information kiosk located in the LAPD Hollywood division. While speaking with Palka in his office, Remini noticed a letter of thanks to him from Scientology with an invitation to lunch at their celebrity center. So, bribery. As of 2023, Shelley Miscavige's whereabouts remain unknown, and who knows if we'll ever know. In the 1970s, Hubbard's followers engaged in a program of criminal infiltration of the US government, resulting in several executives of the organization being convicted and imprisoned for multiple offenses by a US federal court. Now, Hubbard himself was convicted in absentia of fraud by a French court in 1978 and sentenced to 4 years in prison. And in 1992, a court here in Canada convicted the Scientology organization in Toronto of spying on law enforcement and government agencies and criminal breach of trust, later upheld by the Ontario Court of Appeal. The Church of Scientology was convicted of fraud by a French court in 2009, a judgment upheld by the Supreme Court of Cassation in 2013. The Church of Scientology has been described by government inquiries, international parliamentary bodies, scholars, law lords, and numerous superior court judgments as both a dangerous cult and a manipulative profit-making business. I could talk about them for hours and just how awful they are, so let me know in the comments if that's, something y'all would be interested in. Number 4, Family International. Initially called Teens for Christ, Children of God, or COG, it was founded in 1968 by rogue preacher David Berg in Huntington Beach, California. Attracting young runaways and hippies, David preached a kind of worship that combined the ways of Jesus Christ with the free love movement of the 1960s. Group living, zealous converting, and isolated communes were all pillars of this church. Members, who amounted to around 15,000 people across the world at its peak, didn't go to work or go to school. And they also didn't believe in the nuclear family, so younglings were grouped together and lived separately from their parents. In the late 1970s, COG became notorious for the sexual practices that one of the founder's own daughters later described as religious sexual coercion. David coined the term flirty fishing, which was a sexual practice in which women would allegedly have sex with men to bring them into the cult. And if that wasn't scummy enough, he also promoted and encouraged the sexualization of younglings within the COG community. As David manipulated the COG family with his sadistic practices, members started leaving the community, including the families of actors Joaquin Phoenix and Rose McGowan, who both grew up in the communes. Former COG members began coming forward in the early 1990s, describing an environment that permitted and encouraged the physical and sexual taking advantage of younglings. Ricky Dupuy appeared on a talk show in 1993 and revealed that he'd been ordered by the group to forcibly fornicate with someone barely in the double digits of age. Ricky later took his own life, sadly, like many other members of the group, including the founder's son, Ricky Rodriguez, who was sexually taken advantage of throughout his life by his father and the group. Although David died in 1994 while under FBI investigation, the cult continues to exist and now goes by the name Family International, although the group claims that the horrific practices are a thing of the past. Why do I not believe them?
Number 3. Was it all a prank? Now, again, ironically for a group focused on information control, there's a good possibility that modern perceptions of the Order of Illuminati stem from a prank and a satirical series of novels. No, really, wait till you hear about this. A small text called the Principia Discordia was quietly published in 1963, a bizarre parody Bible for a made-up religion intended on causing civil unrest, focusing on hoaxes and impractical practical jokes. One of the authors of the text, Carrie Thornley, who's credited on the book as Lord Omar Khayyam Ravenhurst, partnered with the writer Robert Wilson, who was writing for Playboy at the time. The two of them had an idea for a long-running hoax they would run where they would send fake letters to Playboy's editorial section, claiming that they were members of the Illuminati and they were leaking key intel and practices of their secret order. The two writers had hoped that readers would enjoy the wild, outrageous nature of their letters. Wilson would later partner with a man named Robert Shea, and the two would write a series of satirical novels called the Illuminatus Trilogy, painting the secret Bavarian society as the mastermind behind all of the world's governments, pulling the strings like the puppet masters. The book states that after the order was disbanded, Weishaupt fled Bavaria to the United States, where secretly he had George Washington assassinated, assumed his identity, and spread his order throughout North America, growing in power, creating an organization that encompassed everything, and would eventually lead to the demise of JFK, Martin Luther King, and more. Number 2. How they hide in public. So the group disbanded, sure. Well, if that's where the story ended, we wouldn't be making this video now, would we? Since the group's dissolution, speculation has run rampant. Does the group exist? Where are they? Was it ever even real? Well, if you listen to the theories, the group hides in plain sight behind prying eyes, and it's been responsible for just about every event in the last 150 years. Conspiracy theorists allege the group uses public figures like celebrities, musicians, artists to influence public opinion without anyone realizing. Bigger celebrities tend to be more popular for this sort of thing, obviously. Jay-Z and Kanye get thrown around probably more than any two celebrities I can think of as possible Illuminati agents. Kanye or Jay-Z making a triangle with their hand or covering their eye at a concert is thought to be some sort of winking nod or tip of the hat. There's a great deal of conspiracies surrounding their symbolism, most notably the Eye of Providence, which you would recognize from the $1 bill. This symbol isn't actually originally an Illuminati symbol, but rather a symbol of the Founding Father, representing the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The idea was that the Founding Fathers wanted America to last as long as the pyramids, and the eye represents the Almighty watching above, guiding the country. Now, where things do get a little interesting, I have to admit, is how many people who signed the Declaration of Independence were known Freemasons, the group that was closely tied to the Illuminati. At least 8 confirmed men are publicly known to be Freemasons, with speculators suggesting many more could have been that we don't know about. And finally, the Denver airport. A group as secretive as the Illuminati needs an amazing hideout, right? Something like the Batcave, hidden in plain sight, but hidden enough from the public eye that no one would ever uncover them. Well, there have been several theories over the years as to where a cabal like this could be concealing themselves, but my personal favorite is that they use the Denver airport as a base of operations. The Denver airport is rife for conspiracy theory on its own, and I have to admit, I'm, pretty skeptical. I'm more of a Scully than a Mulder, but there's enough here to have me rubbing my chin in wonder. First and foremost is the bizarre, absolutely terrifying horse statue that stands out in front, looking more like something Satan would ride into battle than anything you'd ever see at an airport. The bizarre glowing eye horse sets off a few raised eyebrows already, but it gets a lot weirder when you learn that the creator of this statue was crushed by his own creation, meaning this horse has tasted blood before. Now, sometimes a scary horse is just a scary horse, but what's inside the Denver airport is even weirder. The airport features maybe the strangest mural to ever grace a public building. A series of paintings depicting what seems to be an apocalypse. Soldiers of an unknown regime with gas masks and blades, destroying the world with viruses and bringing about a new age. Look, even if you're not a conspiracy theorist, even if you're the most rational person in the world, you have to admit these are extremely strange choices to put up in an airport, or anywhere, really. But it doesn't stop there. Underneath the Denver airport runs a massive system of tunnels that this use are unknown. Why would an airport need these? There are some who theorize this is where the Illuminati meets, or perhaps where they transport sensitive cargo. Now finally, on the seal of the Denver airport, there are Freemason symbols, and a note indicating that one of the contributors to the construction was the New World Airport Commission, an organization that doesn't actually appear to exist. Now, if all of this is setting off your blinking lights, it's understandable. There's a reason this building is infamous to conspiracy theorists. But is it home to a secret shadow government? Only that horse knows, and he's not telling anytime soon.
Number 5. The Cult of Dionysus. The Cult of Dionysus has sparked dark speculations and controversies over many years. It's a highly secretive organization, and knowing what exactly occurs within the privacy of members is unknown. Just to list a few of the many theories, here are some of the dark speculations and controversies surrounding the Cult of Dionysus. Quote, excess and madness. The cult's celebration of intoxication and ecstasy led to accusations of excess and madness. Critics argued that the excessive consumption of wine and the frenzied behavior of cult participants could lead to a breakdown of societal order and morality, moral and social disruption. Many in the ancient world viewed the Bacchanalian and Dionysian festivals as a threat to established social norms. The rejection of traditional roles and the temporary suspension of societal rules during these festivals raised concerns about moral and social disruption. Bodily liberation. Some Dionysian rituals were associated with liberation and promiscuity. Some believed that these practices would lead to licentious behavior and the erosion of traditional family structures. Foreign influence. The cult of Dionysus was often associated with foreign influence and was viewed with suspicion by those who feared the introduction of foreign beliefs and practices into their culture. Accusations of political subversion. In some instances, the cult was seen as a potential threat to political stability. Rulers and authorities worried that the Dionysian festivals could be used as a cover for political subversion or rebellion. Mystery and secrecy. The secret and exclusive nature of some Dionysian rites gave rise to speculations and conspiracy theories. The mystery religion aspect of the cult fueled rumors and concerns about what might be happening behind closed doors. Tragedies and harm. The association of Dionysus with tragedy in Greek drama led to the belief that participation in Dionysian rituals could result in real-life tragedies and harm. End quote. Though the speculations likely do hold some truth, being able to definitively answer whether any or all of these theories are true is impossible. Records of the cult's activity were often exaggerated through misunderstandings or misinterpretations of the cult's practices. But it is thought that many of the rituals have been spotted throughout history, hinting that the cult may not be as inactive as many think. Number 4. The Blackburn Cult. May Otis Blackburn's cult, which is referred to with many names, including the Order of the Doves and, of course, the Blackburn cult, was a controversial religious movement that emerged in Los Angeles, California. The cult's beliefs and practices were described as a combination of mysticism, apocalyptic prophecies, and unorthodox spiritual teachings. The cult was unofficially founded in the early 1920s, centering its teachings on the notion that May Otis Blackburn, their leader and founder, was a chosen prophet, selected by divine combine forces to guide followers through the impending end of the world. May claimed to receive direct revelations and instructions from angels and other spiritual entities. She warned her followers to prepare for the looming apocalypse, leading them into believing that only they would be saved from the cataclysmic events she spoke of. The beliefs also included select sections of witchcraft and mysticism, which actually led to legal troubles for May Otis Blackburn and her followers. In 1929, she, along with her son Raymond, faced a high-profile trial in which they were accused of practicing witchcraft and defrauding their followers. The trial received significant media attention and portrayed the cult as a group of radicals who manipulated their members for personal gain. May Otis Blackburn was a writer also. She produced numerous books and pamphlets to spread her religious doctrines and apocalyptic visions. These writings played a crucial role in spreading her teachings and attracting new converts to the Order of the Doves. Despite the cult's strange practices and legal challenges, it managed to gather a following during its existence. However, the relentless scrutiny from the law surrounding a certain body found under a house frequented by the cult and disturbed opinions from the public ultimately led to its disbandment. May Otis Blackburn's life took a quieter turn after the cult's dissolution, and she passed away in 1951. But to this day, it's not known certainly whether there are still practicing members, whether it be people who grew up in the cult or those whose parents raised them under the set of beliefs.
Number 3, the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, known as FLDS for short. Time to focus on the fundamentalist sects that split off when the core religion opted to renounce the practice of polygamy. Technically speaking, polygamy is the practice or custom of having more than one wife or husband at the same time. And while I'm not judging multiple partners or open relationships when they're consensual or of age, there's a lot of ick to unpack here. It is estimated that 6,000 to 10,000 members reside within the congregate sister sites of Hilldale, Utah, Colorado City, Arizona, El Dorado, Texas, West Cliff, Colorado, Mancos, Colorado, Creston and Bountiful, British Columbia, and Pringle, South Dakota. Those who wish to continue the practice remained Mormon, but on their own terms. Polygamy remains, illegal, and in 1953, an entire FLDS community was arrested in Short Creek, Arizona, otherwise known as modern-day Colorado City, and most had their little ones taken from them for safety. A compound in Texas was raided in 2008 after Child Protective Services was made aware of allegations of poor living situations. Over 400 younglings were taken from the compound and placed in CPS custody. So I remember hearing about the raid while watching the Oprah Winfrey Show with my mom of all things. If my brain serves me right, it was about 10 months after the raid when all of the younglings were returned to the Yearning for Zion ranch, and it was such huge news that she was being granted access to this top secret compound. Leader of the FLDS, Warren Jeffs, remains in his position, despite being in prison for life after acts against minors. Number 2, Aum Shinrikyo. Founded by Shoko Asahara in 1984, Aum Shinrikyo is a Japanese new religious movement and doomsday cult who first made headlines in the late 80s amid accusations that Asahara was forcing members to donate money to the group and holding them against their will. Pardon me, I'll backtrack for a moment. Although Aum was, from the beginning considered controversial in Japan, it was not initially associated with serious crimes. Aum's public relations activities included publishing comics and animated cartoons that attempted to tie its religious ideas to popular anime and manga themes, including space missions, powerful weapons, world conspiracies, and the quest for ultimate truth. Like many cult leaders, Asahara believed in an imminent doomsday. This time it was caused by a world war started by the United States. And of course, according to him, only his followers would survive. In 1991, Aum began using wiretapping to get NTT uniforms and equipment and created a manual for wiretapping. In July of 1993, cult members sprayed large amounts of liquid containing Bacillus anthracis spores from a cooling tower on the roof of Aum Shinrikyo's Tokyo headquarters. However, their plan to cause an anthrax epidemic failed. The attack resulted in a large number of complaints about bad odors, but no infections, thank goodness. But by the end of 1993, the cult started secretly manufacturing the nerve agent sarin and later VX. Aum tested its sarin on sheep at Banjawarn Station, a remote pastoral property in Western Australia, killing 29 sheep. So both sarin and VX were then used in several assassinations and attempts between 1994 to 95. In 1995, the group executed a sarin gas attack in the Tokyo subway, which caused the deaths of 12 people and injured 50 more. The group says that those who carried out attacks did so secretly, without being known to other executives and ordinary believers. After that attack, Japanese authorities learned that the group had also been responsible for the death of lawyer Tsutsumi Sakamoto, who was working on a class action lawsuit against Aum Shinrikyo at the time of his death. Almost forgot, the group also killed his wife and descendant. Yes, independent people. On July 6 of 2018, after exhausting all appeals, Asahara and 6 followers on death row were executed as punishment for the 1995 attacks and other crimes. So I'm glad that unlike, some of the other folks I've discussed today, some justice was actually served in this situation. 6 additional followers were executed on the 26th of the same month, and at 12:10 a.m. on New Year's Day of 2019, at least 9 people were injured when a car was deliberately driven into crowds celebrating the New Year on Takashita Street in Tokyo. Local police reported the arrest of Kazuhiro Kusakabe, the suspected driver, who allegedly admitted to intentionally ramming his vehicle into crowds to protest his opposition to the death penalty, specifically in retaliation for the execution of the before-mentioned cult members. Number 1. Good News International Church. The Good News International Ministries, GNIM for short, or Good News International Church, was founded by Paul Mackenzie and his first wife in 2003. So this group attracted international attention in April of this year when it was revealed that Mackenzie had allegedly instructed members to starve themselves to meet Jesus before the end of the world, which has resulted in the deaths of over 400 people. And when you consider more than 600 people have been reported missing, it's just a yikes situation. About 65 rescued followers were charged with attempted self-ending of life after they refused to eat during their stay at a rescue center. The Doomsday Cult is adamantly anti-Western, and with amenities such as healthcare, education, and sports being dismissed as evils of Western life, and with Mackenzie condemning the United States, the United Nations, and the Catholic Church as tools of Satan. Look, I'm all for condemning the Catholic Church, but calling it a tool of Satan feels like an oxymoron. The group devotes much of its teachings to the end times, ergo why they've been dubbed a doomsday cult, the definition of which is a cult that believes in apocalypticism and millenniarism, including both these, that predict disasters and those that attempt to destroy the entire universe. Mackenzie founded the GNIM in 2003 and accumulated a sizable following, largely due to convincing his followers that he could speak directly with God. Beginning in the late 2010s, Mackenzie's church began to receive a renewed wave of scrutiny regarding the internal practices of the organization, particularly in 2017 when Mackenzie and his wife faced several charges relating to the church. He was chastised for inciting students to abandon their education after denouncing it as ungodly, as well as radicalizing and denying medical care to them afterwards. Several students died as a result, and in 2017, 93 students were rescued by government authorities from the group. After another arrest in 2019, he departed Malindi and headed to the Shakahola forest, where the mass starvation occurred earlier this year. Now, Mackenzie did not join his followers in the mass starvation. In fact, a dietary menu was found on the wall in one of the special houses in the forest, believed to be his resting room. He's currently under police custody as the process of exhuming the bodies continues. Police authorities claim that some bodies were missing organs and believed they were being harvested and sold.
Kicking off at number 5, the True Knot. And while some of you may be scratching your head slightly at this entry given the superseding events of the end of Stephen King's fantastic novel and sequel to The Shining, 2013's Dr. Sleep, I'm pretty certain that the properties of these terrifying psychics are the definition of this list. And why? Because really, this steam-hungry organisation of vampiric psychics have obviously been scheming their way across the United States, if not the entire planet, ever since Jack Torrance went nuclear at the Overlook Hotel. And also, if we approach this from the assumption that all of King's work of fiction are connected via the Dark Tower, then the True Knot, from a meta perspective, are one of literature's most well-kept secret societies. Let me try and explain. Throughout the events of King's 2013 sequel, Dr. Sleep describes a group of nomadic psychics roaming the country in RVs and caravans that feed off the life force of spiritually gifted children, and now adult Danny Torrance being one of their intended victims. These gifted children, who demonstrate the shining seen in King's first novel, exude a life force that they refer to as steam, which when consumed keeps them young and extends their lifespan beyond its natural limit. Yeah, sounds like the perfect recipe for some immortal secret society, right? And it is. As their creed throughout the novel explains, we are the chosen ones, we are the fortunate ones, we are the True Knot, and we endure. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that's a checklist for what constitutes a secret society. Also, no spoilers because Dr. Sleep is awesome, and if you're not in the business of reading the novel, the film is out at the end of this month, so yeah, no excuse. Oh no, is it the end of next month? Next month. Swinging in at number 4, Spectre. Whoa. Curveball. I bet you guys didn't expect to see James Bond slink his way onto this list, but we're not so much concerned with the man who killed the man with the golden gun, but more so his most devious of adversaries, the secret, shadowy organisation known only as Spectre. In many ways, again, this is the definition of a secret society, an organisation of individuals on an international scale whose sole motive is to, well, who knows what their sole motivation is, but several things are certain. They make a boatload of money, they're straight up evil, and they're also incredibly stylish. I don't know about you, but what is it with evil, villainous organisations and extravagant architecture? We'll never know. Spectre, which forms the acronym for Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge and Extortion, is the definitive overarching villainous body of Ian Fleming's legendary James Bond series. And who better to lead them into chaos than the evil genius and supervillain Ernst Stavro Blofeld. Yes, the guy in the swivel chair with the monocle and the Persian cat. And yes, the guy that's been parodied by pretty much every crime comedy ever. But that's not the point, because at the start, he was awesome and terrifying, and I don't care what you think. First appearing in the 1961 novel Thunderball, Spectre would see many incarnations through Fleming's series, whilst always maintaining their malevolent aim of seemingly perfectly tempered chaos. Seemingly though, the most telling of their motivations was purely a personal one. It seems that the definitive supervillain Blofeld himself created one of the most intricate and evil organizations in literature simply because he had a grudge.
Number 3. Order of Nine Angels. The Order of Nine Angels, or the ONA, is one of the most mysterious and highly controversial groups in the world of modern Satanism and the occult. The ONA was founded in the UK in the 1960s, promoting extreme and often dangerous forms of Satanism. Its core beliefs and practices are complex and unconventional, which has led to bouts of intense debate and controversy from Satanists and non-practicing communities alike. The heart of their philosophy is the concept of the sinister tradition, which is a radical, committed path that encourages members to challenge societal norms and embrace chaos and darkness. They view Satan as a symbol of rebellion against the established order, advocating for personal transformation through dark and sometimes harmful experiences. One of the most notorious aspects of the ONA is its advocacy for culling, a term they use to describe acts of harm and even Homo sapien sacrifice. Some of the ONS's writings are extremely dark and grossly disturbing, further demonstrating their deeply antisocial and extremist perspective. While they remain a highly secretive, tight-knit, and controversial group, their writings and philosophy have managed to spread widely and even found their way into other areas of the occult, impacting various forms of alternative spirituality. The Order of the Nine Angels remains a fringe and extremist organization to this day. Their beliefs and practices are widely criticized and condemned for their proud and loud promotion of harm and extremism. As with any belief system, it's important to approach their beliefs with caution and to be aware of the potential harm and danger it can pose, especially if it's taken to the extreme. Number 2. Sachiko Ito. The bizarre and disturbing saga of Sachiko Ito, the woman who would come to be known as the Drumstick Killer, began in 1990. It all started when her husband suffered a back injury, which not only incapacitated him, but also led him down a very dark path of drinking and gambling, which ended up pushing the couple into very deep debt, which eventually forced them to sell their home and move to a different town. In their new town, they became involved with a religious group, which was deeply involved in spiritual faith healing. But their involvement didn't last long because they used the organization's name without permission and were expelled. This led to Ito's husband experiencing a mental breakdown and disappearing without a trace in 1992. With her husband gone, the descent into her heinous actions began. She moved approximately 100 miles north of Tokyo and started performing spiritual healings. Ito proclaimed that she was a healer and a psychic, gradually making increasingly grandiose claims. She eventually declared herself a god who possessed the power to drive demons out of people. These statements quickly attracted a large following of devotees who flocked to her for services. Ito's cult grew quickly, with over a dozen believers and their family members living in her home and participating in rituals. Her rituals, involving drumstick beatings meant to end the dirty body and purify the soul, quickly escalated in aggression. She accused some of her followers of being possessed by a bad fox and had them beaten until they were hardly alive. In June of 1995, less than 3 years after Ito moved, one of Ito's followers was hospitalized with severe injuries from a ritual. This follower also reported that her husband had abruptly disappeared after visiting Ito's house. This raised suspicions and led the police to search the premises, where they uncovered a truly horrific scene. 6 decomposing bodies, 2 men and 4 women, were discovered, some mummified and wrapped in futons. All of their lives were ended due to the harm inflicted during Ito's rituals. Ito, her daughter, daughter and a man named Yutaka Nemoto and another follower were arrested and charged with the deaths. Ato's survivor, who had reported the cult, was also arrested. Ato initially claimed that the deaths were unintentional and were simply a part of a religious exorcism. The trial resulted in Ato receiving a life-ending sentence, while her accomplices received prison sentences ranging from 18 years to life. On September 27, 2012, at the age of 65, Ato was hanged after several unsuccessful appeals, hopefully ending the belief system that she created, but no one's quite sure. Number 1. Temple of the Black Light. The Temple of the Black Light, which can also be referred to as the Misanthropic Luciferian Order, MLO, which is what I will be calling it because it's the shortest name. The MLO is a group associated with left-hand path spirituality and philosophy. MLO was founded in Sweden in the early 1990s, and it has gained popularity in cult theorists for its unique approach to Satanism and the left-hand path. The central notion of the MLO is the self-created worship that they call Chaos Gnostic Satanism. What sets them apart from many other satanic groups, MLO's beliefs are rooted in a drastic form of nihilism and a deep desire to embrace chaos, darkness, and spiritual rebellion. Honestly, real. They believe in an intangible force called chaos, which they see as a destructive, creative, and transformative entity that has great power and aims to oppose the order and constraints of the universe. MLO's members revere Lucifer as a symbol of enlightenment, liberation, and defiance against traditional religious and societal norms. However, their interpretation of Lucifer is much different from popular depictions of him. To them, Lucifer represents a dark and chaotic force that opposes established religion and the moral codes of society. The MLO is known for its extreme and often controversial writings, which explore the esoteric beliefs of the religion in depth. Their texts often feature highly complex and cryptic symbolism, which is intended to be understood by those who are deeply committed to the group's philosophy, and not for those outside. I mean, that's a good way to reject skeptics. Like, if skeptics were like, dude, this text doesn't make any sense, the members could just say, yeah, well, duh, you wouldn't get it. You can't sit with us. The Temple of the Black Light is considered a highly controversial group within the broader satanic community as well. They are criticized for their extremist and nihilistic views, as their beliefs are not an accurate representation of traditional satanic traditions and beliefs, which normally encompass a wide spectrum of beliefs and practices. The Temple of the Black Light actually remains a small and secretive group that's still active to this day.
Kicking us off at number 5, we've got the Global Occult Coalition. The GOC is like a sister organization to the Foundation, a scrappy, violent, often short-sighted sister. No relation. After World War II, there was plenty going on in the world, plenty of folks scrambling to hang on to little pieces of power and safety. This meant that all sorts of splintery pieces from the powers that be found each other and created a new alliance. Remnants from defecting occultists, psychics, priests, and scientists from all sides of the war came together to form a worldwide task force. Where the Foundation chooses to secure, contain, and protect, the Global Occult Coalition decides to destroy. To combat the spread of paranormal entities and protect the general public, the GOC will annihilate anything they deem to be dangerous. Nowadays, it functions similarly to an anomalous United Nations, an openly political organization that takes actions to affect the world at large. They see themselves as the police of the paranormal world and pride themselves on the destruction of supernatural entities. The GOC achieves this through their use of experimental high-tech weaponry often received from their benefactors. Over the years, they have destroyed many SCPs before the Foundation even had a chance to contain them. This puts the two organizations at odds, but even so, they often work together towards mutual goals. Teamwork doesn't mean that they get along though, as there have been many times that the two organizations have really butted heads. Plus, as an entirely efficient eraser of entities, the GOC holds the Foundation in contempt for their use of containment on SCPs. Too soft, too weak, they think. But what's worse, containing entities with a risk of breach, or outright destroying them, mitigating risk but permanently removing an element from our world. Coming in at number 4, are we cool yet? I ask myself this every day. The answer is always no. Now that I've got the requisite self-deprecation out of the way, we can talk about this collective anomalous artists, also known as anartists, but I can't see that catching on. Folks in AWCY often obtain and produce anomalous objects and entities, using them to create art installations. Usually these are placed for maximum public exposure, which puts a lot of people at risk. Plenty of the exhibitions have proven to be fatal to bystanders. God damn it, Banksy. Wherever they go, they will leave the phrase, "Are we cool yet?" somewhere in some form. Keep an eye open for that if you value your life more than street art. With no real central structure to their society, they rely on independent cells to get things going. Artists tend to work independently, they don't want people breathing down their necks unless forced to do so otherwise. This led to plenty of offshoots and lots of artists making art revolving around anomalous objects, beings, and phenomena. Because of the lack of structure, there isn't a real way to describe the whole of AWCY. However, with members of the public often falling victim to their artwork, the movement has often been labeled as a bunch of art terrorists, placing anomalous art in random galleries, creating public pieces, even splintering off further and having anomalous memes made. It's too easy to stumble across a piece of this paranormal pastiche, so be careful out there.
Next up at number 3, the Esoteric Order of Dagon. And I'm pretty certain that some of you are waiting for this entry, and truth be told, we cannot do this list without including this particular sect of scheming fishmen. In many ways, the Esoteric Order of Dagon is the quintessential secret society, particularly if we're including the ones that have a giant eldritch deity at the heart of their traditions. Yeah, a bizarre set of handshakes don't look so weird when compared to a bizarre set of handshakes with tentacles. Now that's a good question. Is a handshake still a handshake if it's with a tentacle? Let me know. You see, as so brilliantly designed in Lovecraft's 1931 novella The Shadow over Innsmouth, the Esoteric Order of Dagon were the ocean-worshipping secret society founded by the bizarre and gill-ridden Captain Obed Marsh. You see, as Captain Marsh found on his journey across the seven seas, there are ancient things that lurk in the water. After learning a ritual from the inhabitants of an unnamed Polynesian island on how to summon the deep ones, he took this newfound knowledge back to the town of Innsmouth, where he then summoned them and entered an eternal pact. It was a two-way relationship at first. The inhabitants of the town would have a constant supply of fresh fish, and the townspeople would have to offer them human sacrifices. Bit of a bum deal, if you're asking me. Obviously, as time went on, this bizarre pact eventually led to the 3 oaths of secrecy, the final one being a human pledge to sire or bear a deep one child, perpetuating the fishy Father Dagon worshipping race. Although they were technically destroyed, I'm pretty sure Lovecraftian fiction left this one open-ended. I'm looking at you, New Orleans. Coming in at number 2, the Talamasca. Okay, now we're really getting into the heavyweight champion of literary secret societies, because seriously, move over, Illuminati. This is a cause for some concern. The Talamasca would like to have a word with you. Now, hopefully, if you've read Anne Rice's brilliant vampire series, or even had your interest piqued by the 1994 film starring Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, then you'll know that beneath the comings and goings of our civilization exists a much older, a much more permanent race of creatures, vampires. And of course, being a sort of secret society in themselves, it goes without saying that the secret societies of a secret society are pretty damn secretive. And this is what I was irking toward with that opening statement of this list. It's important not to know these things when faced with the mysteries of literature. The Talamasca caste, sometimes known as the Order of the Talamasca or simply Talamasca, are a secret society set up during the early days of mankind with the sole purpose of keeping track of the paranormal comings and goings of the denizens of Earth. I mean, it goes without saying, really, you wouldn't really let them sit there seething with impossible power for thousands of years, right? Witches, spirits, werewolves, and of course, vampires all fall within the ever-gazing eye of the Talamasca. You see, in an expert fashion, Rice leaves just enough breadcrumbs of this organisation throughout her work, and as they claim in Queen of the Damned, we watch and we are always there. In several cases, it is even alluded to that the Talamasca have existed as an entity since before the birth of Christ, with their origin strangely and even more perplexingly being tied to bees. Yeah, you heard that right, and your guess is as good as mine. Maybe we'll find out what's going on with the bees. Hopefully. And finally, coming in at number 1 spot, the Amyr. Guys, I'm sorry, but if it seems like I'm harping on about the King Killer Chronicles, that's because I am. And if you haven't got the message yet, read this remarkable series and let your mind work overtime in trying to figure out just what the hell is going on. You see, Patrick Rothfuss, the creator of the King Killer Chronicles, demonstrated in both his first novel, The Name of the Wind, and his second, The Wise Man's Fear, a pretty remarkable knack of only giving us shapes of a story and leaving us to attempt to figure out the truth behind them. Again, I've mentioned it before, but part of the true charm of this series are the possibilities behind its many twisting tales. We're never truly given definitive answers, only illusions, and the most mysterious of those grand illusions are the Holy Order of the Amyr. And you know what? In many ways, this is one of the only true secret societies in literature that we could put on this list, because the truth is, We know nothing about them. It's pure speculation as to how the Amyr came to be, who they are, and what their motivations were. We do know some things about them though, which is a testament to how well woven this story is. The Amyr were founded by the Tell-in Church in the early days of the ancient Aturan Empire. Their sole purpose was for the specially selected members to be equal part knight-errant, a roaming purveyor of justice, and a vigilante. And explicitly they were exempt from the law, and their role was to enact their judiciary powers across the land for the greater good. The highest of their ranks, the Siridae, were denoted by their tattooed hands depicting the Amyr symbol, a flaming tower. You see, the whole point of this series is the pursuit of knowledge, the seeking of a secret, and hopefully one day we'll find out just exactly who the Amyr are.
Number 5. The Skull and Bone Society. Now, I'm gonna be honest, this video might be the one to get the channel taken down. I've made a lot of bold videos. I've made some very, very heretical claims against the Catholic Church, and I've said some wild things and claimed them as facts regarding the Megalodon, but this might be the video to get the channel blacklisted as we start diving into and talking about some of the most secretive societies out there. The Skull and Bone Society is one of the more well-known secret societies, and yeah, I guess that's kind of an oxymoron. It's an undergraduate society at Yale University. Founded in 1832, it's renowned the world over for just how darn secretive it is, and its practice of strange rituals and its secret membership. Partly why it's so captivating to conspiracy theorists is its alumni are something to boast about. Many presidents have been members of the Skull and Bone Society, both Bush Sr. and Jr. Speculation runs rampant when it comes to the Skull and Bones, suggesting that powerful elites from within influence politics and finance. Now, membership, as one could expect, is very limited to a select few senior students at Yale who are chosen through mysterious ways, okay? You need to work on a lot more than just your GPA. I don't even know how to get in or what the criteria is, but it's not just anybody. These initiates are referred to as bonesmen. The society's rituals are kept to the utmost secrecy, even after their time in the society. After you leave, you can't go around telling everybody about the Skull and Bone Society and all the stuff you got up to, and clearly no one's doing that because it was not easy to find information for this. Some suggest the society acts as a breeding ground for future leaders, wielding significant power in business, politics, and finance, while others believe they're part of a larger cabal of conspiracies with hidden agendas tied to the Masons and the Illuminati. Now, there is precious little information regarding the Skull and Bones out there. We know it exists. That much is true. And many powerful people have claimed or have been claimed to be the members. But as far as actual cold hard facts about what happens behind closed doors, we don't know a lot. I am but a humble YouTuber. I never went to Yale. If anyone wants to extend me an invite, I think the top 5 scary DMs are open. But for now, we know precious little about the infamous secret society. Now, we may not know a lot about the Skull and Bones, but we have lots of other secrets for you to unveil, from everything from Bigfoots, ghosts, conspiracies, ghouls, goblins, pretty much anything scary or freaky under the sun or above it, we've got a video or two on. So hit subscribe to Top 5 Scary. Please ring that little bitty bell so you don't miss a video. But do that at the end of this video so I can tell you about all these other secret societies, okay? Number 4, Freemasonry. Our next entry is the Freemasons, a group I am sure you've probably heard of before. The Freemasons are a fraternal organization that traces its origins back to the medieval guild of stonemasons. Makes sense? Now, while its early history is rooted in the craft of stone masonry, or blue-collar work, the modern-day Freemasons have evolved into a global fraternity that promotes brotherhood, personal development, philanthropy, and if you believe the stories, might secretly be running the world from behind the shadows. Freemasonry has long been associated with conspiracies, definitely because of its secretive nature, its symbols, and its historical prominence. The group actually does have slight ties to the founding of the Illuminati, with the group's order serving as inspiration for Adam Weishaupt's group, which we will talk about more about at the end of the video. Freemasons are sometimes spoken of like a synonym for the Illuminati, like they're interchangeable groups, with the belief that Freemasons are involved in clandestine activity. To the theorists, Freemasons control governments, banks, using their influence, and pointing out that throughout history, many notable world leaders and key figures have been Freemasons or have had familial ties to Freemasonry. And there are some wilder conspiracy theories out there too that suggest that Freemasonry is tied to supernatural or occult practices, claiming that Freemasons engage in esoteric rituals and possess hidden knowledge, ancient mysteries, secret teachings. These beliefs make Freemasonry out to be a real secret kind of cult organization. Now, Freemasonry is real. Nobody's doubting that, nobody's disproving that. The chances are actually pretty good that there's probably a Freemason lodge very close to where you live. The Freemasons boast brotherhood, fraternity, philanthropy, personal development, and they've got all these lovely things on their website, and I'm more than inclined to agree it really is just a place to hang out and rub elbows with other people, or is that all just a very convenient cover story to cover over the truth?
Coming in at number 3, we've got Dr. Wondertainment. This one is hard to classify as so much of it seems to be shrouded in mystery. Is it an individual or a collective? Or is it an individual in charge of a collective, like an SCP Willy Wonka, presiding over all sorts of hypothetical paranormal Oompa Loompas, perhaps? Regardless of what it is behind the scenes, it is known that the good doctor produces anomalous artifacts and entities that resemble children's toys. The nature of these things varies widely, but all of them were clearly intended to be used by children. Are they safe to be used by children? Usually absolutely not. Whether this comes from a place of misguided wonder or terrifying sadism is hard to say, although it is quite obvious that Dr. Wondertainment is indeed a capitalist construct. Collect, find, buy, these are all calls to action Wondertainment might put to use. For a collective supposedly obsessed with childhood wonder and imagination, they are very, very concerned with intellectual property and the like. You gotta make money somewhere, I guess. From collectible human beings with strange anomalous qualities, to masks that make anomalies turn into human children, there's all sorts of weird and wacky stuff going on here, from heartwarming to horrifying. Also, there's a potential connection to the O5 Council and the Scarlet King depending on your headcanon. The fun and wonder side of this is real, but there is definitely some darkness creeping behind it. Add in a connection to the mythical factory and you've got a pretty creepy mystery indeed. Plus the fact that these anomalies are all disguised as kids' toys is very dangerous. Nobody needs children accessing paranormal forces, okay? Coming in at number 2, Marshall Carter and Dark Limited. This is a club based in London who caters to the super rich. Through their membership, MCD has been able to develop extensive political and financial ties worldwide. This often causes many problems for the Foundation. At the behest of their wealthy members, Marshall Carter and Dark Limited will collect rare and obscure paranormal items and provide exclusive, expensive, and unparalleled experiences. This of course comes with all sorts of risks, including revealing anomalous entities to the public. Often these activities will result in conflict with the Foundation. Whether it's procuring an SCP before the Foundation can, or actively lobbying for the breach of skips of interest, this calamitous country club causes all sorts of problems. They're not known for use of force though, no. Not when financial and political pressure will do. And if that's not enough, they have been known to hire outside agents, ones that will be very difficult to connect to the main firm. Containment breaches caused by MCD Limited are relatively common, which is quite dangerous. Money and social pressure go a long way, especially when they're being applied by a shadowy procurer of extraterrestrial experiences. 2 containment sites were almost brought to public attention after the Foundation refused access to MCD members. Rich brats are hard to say no to because they'll always use insane amounts of money and power as leverage. Of course, being rich and powerful, it's very hard to acquire useful information about this group. Agents who run into members of the group are advised to maintain their cover story and not reveal Foundation ties or SCP info. Who knows what they would do or pay to get their hands on information. And finally, number 1, the Chaos Insurgency. The scariest enemies are the ones that come from within. The Chaos Insurgency is a splinter group of the Foundation created by a rogue cell that went AWOL, taking with them several dangerous SCP objects. Since their betrayal, they have become a major player on the world stage, using anomalies for benefit and to consolidate power. They don't only deal in anomalies either, they're also well known for weapons dealing and intelligence work. The Chaos Insurgency will make use of authoritarian regimes in poor and developing countries to further their goals. They like to use the populations of said nations like D-class subjects and manipulate the economy and world events to maintain poverty and war. This ensures that they can continue their experimentation, conscript forces easily, and make deals with opposing forces. Since severing ties with the Foundation, they've acquired many anomalous objects, most of which are unknown to anybody outside of the organization. However, some notable SCPs they took with them while defecting include the Staff of Hermes, which warps physical and chemical properties of matter, and the Bell of Entropy, which can cause various destructive effects based on where it's it's struck. These items lead people to think that most of the anomalous items they collect have high potential for direct utility, none of the difficult to contain or impractical ones the Foundation works so hard to contain. Right now, they've gone totally ghost. Their base of operations is unknown, as well as any current leaders. All the Foundation knows for sure is that the Chaos Insurgency is directly antagonistic to the Foundation, often using deadly force to prevent containment of anomalies. In fact, members of the Insurgency may very well have infiltrated the Foundation and are lying in wait right now. Watch the containment units. The Foundation is not alone, and definitely not the most dangerous secret group out there. They better keep some allies satisfied. It seems like they can use all the help they can get.
Number 5. The Brethren. Do you feel like the modern world has got you down? Got you running around, feeling overwhelmed? Perhaps you need a break from it all and you want to get away. I want to go back to a simpler time. Well then perhaps the Brethren is the movement you've been looking for. Founded by Jim T. Roberts, the movement seeks to shed all of the convenience and accommodations of modern living, with its members instead choosing to live as vagrants, drifting on the edge of society, away from the prying eye of the modern world. Their leader believes that in order to be guaranteed a spot in heaven, one must purify themselves. And to the Brethren, this means purifying themselves of just about every facet of modern living. As part of their renouncement of all modern living, Brethren must forsake all of their family, friends, their jobs, their livelihoods, all in favor of their new brothers. You aren't allowed to partake in any material goods of any kind. Sew your own clothing and eat what you can scavenge. This particularly grisly habit is what gave the cult its enduring nickname of garbage eaters for their tendency to dumpster dive. You're not even allowed to laugh, celebrate, or play, as all celebrations must be saved for the return of the Savior at the end of the world. Although giving those conditions, I'm not sure what you'd have to laugh about. It goes as far too as members being barred from receiving treatment or medicine, even for common curable illnesses. Because members are forced to cut themselves off from their families, oftentimes members disappear without their family members ever even getting to know what happened. As such, groups have sprung up to try and reconnect Brethren to their families and hopefully get them a dinner that didn't come out of a dumpster. Why not toss a subscribe our way and join our group here? Our teachings are scary videos every day, and the only thing you have to give us is a subscribe, and if you're feeling really generous, maybe a like too. Let's keep going. Number 4. Happy Science. Happy Science, formerly known as the Institute for Research in Human Happiness, is a Japanese New Age religion that's sort of a loot bag for as many religious concepts as you can think of. In Happy Science, all gods that have been worshipped throughout history across various religions were actually all the same god, named El Cantare, roughly translating to the singer. The group's founder, Ryoho Okawa, just happens to be the incarnation of all these holy deities manifested as one man. He also claims to have the energies of various celebrities inside him, including Freddie Mercury and former US presidents. The group preaches happiness, obviously. Following the group's mantra, in order to obtain happiness, one must practice the principles of happiness known as the fourfold path: love that gives, wisdom, self-reflection, and progress. Now, Happy Science isn't just some fringe group in a tent in the backwoods. Rough estimates suggest that the group pulls inwards of $45 million a year. Sounds like there's some kind of profit happening here. That's a little pun for you. Happy Science has a full-on media division, producing several animated and live-action films, and publishing books numbering close to the thousands, mostly being transcriptions of Okawa's lectures about happiness, spirituality, and occasionally aliens, as a major part of the group's belief revolve around UFOs, aliens, and other cosmic entities. The group is fairly widespread, boasting temples across the world in various continents. The group's statistics claim that there are 11 million members worldwide, although more conservative estimates put it around 30,000 worldwide. Regardless, Happy Science is something that's clearly making a lot of people happy. Number 3, the Knights Templar. Now perhaps you know this next group best as the villains of the Assassin's Creed franchise, or depending on your personal philosophies, the unspoken hero of the Assassin's Creed franchise, but that's another story. The Knights Templar were a medieval Christian military order, formed in the 12th century to protect the pilgrims that were traveling to Jerusalem during the Crusades. Very, very quickly, the Templars grew in power, wealth, and influence, and this band of swordsmen quickly rose to establish a network all across Europe. Now, There have been a ton of conspiracies revolving around the Knights Templars over the years. I'm sure partly because the Knights Templars is a very cool sounding name. They also had a sudden and dramatic downfall. Didn't have anything to do with any order of hay-jumping assassins, but they did close their gates pretty quickly. In 1307, King Philip IV of France initiated a campaign against the Templars, accusing them of many heinous crimes, heresies, idolatry, corruption, secret ceremonies. Now, the order was officially disbanded after this, and many of its members were arrested, interrogated, and executed. And quick aside, the Templars really did do a lot of these things, and the Templars did unspeakable things during the Crusades, and it's not that far to say the Templars were a very, very, very malignant presence. One prominent conspiracy theory suggests that the Templars possessed hidden knowledges or relics, including the Holy Grail or Ark of the Covenant, believing these sacred artifacts bestowed them incredible power and influence. Some people also theorize that the Templars knew they were going to be disbanded, and they concealed these treasures to pass them on to other secret societies. This shows up very, very prominently in Assassin's Creed, where the Templar Order sort of splinters off into all these different little groups, but holds on to these pieces of Eden, these powerful relics that give them all these powers. But I gotta stop talking about Assassin's Creed. Another theory links the Templars to Freemasonry, suggesting that the Order's traditions, symbolism, and rituals were passed down and sort of given to the Freemasons, which is why the Freemasons, the Knights Templar, and the Illuminati are so connected in conspiracy circles. Some conspiracists propose that the Templars survived their dissolution and the disbandment was just a cover story, and they're still operating their clinking swords together, having secret meetings. They went underground, established new organizations, and now they're rebranding themselves. Some claiming that they played a role in shaping historical events such as the American Revolution or founding these modern banking systems, and eventually sort of snaked their way into every other general controlling the world conspiracy theory. Yeah, big ol' pause. Number 2, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Wow. Coming up next is going to be the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which was a mystical 19th century order emerging in England, and one of the best names for a secret society like ever. This sounds like the villains of a Final Fantasy game. The order was famous for its esoteric tradition and practice of magic. Yep, the order that sounds like it's a bunch of wizards did practice magic. The Golden Dawn sought to explore the spiritual and occult aspects of the world through their rituals and symbolism. Now, the order was founded by 3 key individuals. That's William Woodman, William Westcott, and Samuel Little McGregor Methers, who secretly resented the other 2 members for having alliterative W names, and he felt deeply left out. Over the years, the Golden Dawn would attract plenty of notable figures, including notorious occultist Aleister Crowley, who did also inspire one of the best Black Sabbath songs. Internally, the Golden Dawn experienced a manner of conflict. Disagreement over leaderships, initiation, and the true nature of the Order's teachings and mission were all things that caused strife. Some people later on have suggested these internal conflicts were planned to maintain control and secrecy over the organization. Imagine that. Your organization is so secret, you need to get rid of your own members. Keep them out of the loop. They know too much. Conspiracists believe that the Order's supernatural ties mean they are involved with some paranormal entities. Maybe we're getting a little bit out there. Believing that they were able to manipulate and control individuals and situations. They could control minds and influence. Summon demons. Of course, it could also just be a giant load of hullabaloo, and the Golden Dawn could have been nothing more than a bunch of old men role-playing wizards like a Dungeons and Dragons club. We'll probably never know the truth, though. At number 1, we got the Illuminati proper. They had to be the number 1 secret society, right? Who else could it have been? Is there a more famous secret society? There's probably more secret societies, but I wouldn't know about them. You certainly know the Illuminati as this shadowy organization of puppet masters pulling the strings and influencing the world behind their scenes, using Jay-Z and Beyonce to further their goals somehow. But what do you know of the group's origins? To separate the fact through the fiction, let me take you on a journey after a few minutes of Google searching. The infamously secretive order's origins can actually be traced back kinda easy to a university professor named Adam Weishaupt in 1776. He taught natural law at a university in Bavaria and was orphaned at an early age. He was then raised by his erudite uncle, who fostered a love of knowledge in the boy. Adam loved knowledge and thought that consuming knowledge was life's greatest pursuit. He was very frustrated by countries and states that were dominated by religion, like his Catholic homeland of Bavaria. He was very anti-Catholic Church, a position that was not particularly looked upon with favor at the time. Now, Adam had envisioned a tight group of people who could challenge the church's stranglehold on information, and he saw a formal group in mind focused on illumination rather than suppression. There's definitely some irony in a group that's so famous now for secrecy and mystery that its original intention was to illuminate people. Initially, Weishaupt sought out the order of Freemasons, believing that the Freemasons were exactly the men he was looking for, but he was denied entry. Frustrated, Adam chose to seek out his own people and dubbed his new group the Order of the Illuminati, but based his organization very strongly on the Freemasons. He borrowed their hierarchy, code names, clandestine dealings, a lot of their symbolism, and this is largely why people sort of mistake the two groups and correlate them together, lump them in with the same conspiracies. Adam did also pluck several Freemasons from lodges to come join, so undoubtedly there was crossover between both groups, but they're different things. Since then, pretty much every single conspiracy theory imaginable has been connected to the Illuminati. Governments, banks, entertainment, bada 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 bada. It's all orchestrated by the Illuminati, and we simply play out their script. Symbols such as the Eye of Providence are seen as proof. It's on the dollar bill, or there's symbology used in music videos and entertainment. That's proof of the group's control. Anytime you see Jay-Z doing one of these, that's proof that he's an Illuminati agent. So there was a real Illuminati, definitely, and there were a bunch of Bavarian nerds, but is there still an Illuminati pulling all the strings?
Kicking off at number 5, we have the Oracle of Delphi. At the very center of the ancient Greek world is a strange, hidden chasm that has been thought as fuel for the netherworld for thousands of years. On the slopes of Mount Parnassus, underneath the colossal Temple of Apollo, the seeds of the Delphic mystery cult came into fruition. In essence, the Oracle of Delphi was a fortune teller, the high priestess of the temple, known as the Pythia, which in ancient Greek translates as the verb to rot, in reference to the slain, monstrous python at the center of their belief. The Pythia would sit above a huge chasm deep in the bowels of the temple and breathe in a concoction from the depths below, thought to give her hallucinogenic properties that would induce prophecy. So accurate were her predictions, though, that the Pythia was thought to be the most influential woman in the classical world. Whoever held the title would go on to influence the decisions of Alexander the Great, Croesus, and King Leonidas, just to name a few. Coming in at number 4, we have Mithraism, also known as the Mithraic Mysteries. This ancient Roman cult was centered on the god Mithras, an ancient Persian god which is also tied to the Sanskrit Mitra, a god of the sun. Now, if we're talking the stereotypical aspects of a cult, then this is where it all started. Strange, complex sets of initiations, secret handshakes, and bizarre, ordained meetings in hidden underground temples. You know the stuff. A lot of them are still around today, actually, one of the best preserved being in London, England, of all places. Just a few steps away from the Bank of England is London's Mithraeum, where ancient Roman soldiers would meet in secrecy and whisper the name of their god. But what's so scary about that? Sounds harmless enough. Well, these guys were totally obsessed with Mithras slaying the bull and ritualistically reenacted it whenever they got the chance with live animals and the consumption of flesh. Gradually, this got a little bit out of hand and people became part of the menu. Yep. Cannibalism. Also a little bit scary, but many people believe that the Mithraic cult is still around today, just lurking somewhere in the shadows, probably London.
Number 3. Raelism. Raelism is the teaching that humanity was birthed by a hyper-advanced race of aliens called the Elohim, who genetically engineered us as their children. Our most famous religious leaders over the years were Elohim human hybrids, whose wondrous abilities and powers were mislabeled as prophets. It's said that by 2035, if Raelism's followers have achieved the tenets correctly and fulfilled the movement's teaching by spreading its message and building an embassy to welcome its 39 prophets, the group rose to prominence in the 1970s when its leader, Claude Vorion, who called himself Rayo, claims he had an experience with a UFO where a spacecraft flying overhead was full of beings who told him about humanity's future and past and handed him a Bible and told him it was his mission to build that embassy. Now, all of this sounds like pretty standard cult stuff, worshipping aliens who are secret progenitors, but where things get pretty interesting and worthy of note is that around 2002, a company called Clonaid, with direct ties to Raelism, claimed to have done the impossible and cloned a baby girl, appropriately named Eve. Immediately, it spurned all kind of controversy, led to several investigations, discussions about the ethics and morality of the situation. But despite all this, no actual evidence of the clone baby ever came up. Eve isn't the only alleged baby birthed this way through Clonade, with several claims of Clonade brand clones being produced since the original story in 2002, all with dubious claims, including controversial rapper Kid Buu, who claims to have been born there. So either Eve is still hiding somewhere, or maybe it was a bit of an exaggeration. Regardless, Clonade charges up to $200,000 for their services, which might seem a bit expensive, but hey, you're getting a great deal on a clone. You're gonna make your money back on that. So if anyone's got a piggy bank just weighing them down, please send me a message and then get back to me and introduce me to you and your clone. Number 2, the Church of Bible Understanding. Hey, real quick for me, what's your favorite Seinfeld episode? Yeah, I probably could have guessed it was the comeback or the contest, and those are both great answers. But what about the checks, where George gets involved with that group of carpet cleaners who end up trying to recruit for a cult, and he's all mad they want his boss, but they don't want him? That's the kind of shenanigan that could only happen to Costanza. Turns out that episode was based on a real group called the Church of Bible Understanding, although at the time they were going by Christian Brothers Carpet Cleaners, no doubt where the idea came from. This undertaking was one of the group's many noble business ventures, including a used van business and a New York chain of used antique stores. Like most cults, the group was led by a charismatic figurehead, one Stuart Trail, who maintained to his followers that only he was capable of understanding the Word of God and understanding how to annoy George Costanza. Their leader was expelled from the Pentecostal church he worshipped at in the early 70s, and after his expulsion, refused to give up the dream and formed his own church, promising a communal lifestyle of salvation. And if reports from former members are to be believed, hard work for below minimum wage. Members were isolated from their friends, families, and communities and encouraged to devote themselves wholly to the church. Besides a less than flattering appearance on Seinfeld, the group most recently made headlines after an orphanage they built in Haiti had burned to the ground, after several claims that orphanages the group had been producing in Haiti had been extremely substandard, shoddy, overcrowded, and dirty. The leader, Stuart Trail, passed away in 2018. Current estimates suggested the group has dwindled down from thousands of members in its heyday to just dozens now. And there's no word if Larry David was ever a member or associated. Number 1, the Nubian Nation. Dwight York had a dream. Like many Americans, he believed in simple things, like amassing an army to help him fight Satan amongst the stars. Let me back that up for you just a little bit and introduce you to the Nubian Nation, or the United Nubian Nation of Moors. Adding just a twist of Christianity, African rituals, and a heavy dose of Egyptian mythology mixed with aliens, Dwight York had a perfect recipe for a wild cult story. The nation believed that they needed to prepare themselves for an inevitable duel of the fates among the stars, and that the 144,000 chosen ones would accompany Dwight into outer space for the fate of the galaxy, zooming away on a flying city to Orion to fight Satan. Now, I have no comment about any of that. Maybe it was the cult of personality, maybe it was the promise that you could potentially get involved in a Star War, but this was a surprisingly popular movement around rural Georgia, where York built up a massive compound that looked a bit like a pavilion out of your favorite Egypt-themed amusement park, and bringing in members in droves. As the numbers grew, the mythology grew, incorporating cloning, racial theory, anti-government conspiracy, and a whole lot more. But the dreams of the Starfarers would be cut short when an investigation in 2002 revealed a horrifying truth: that their leader Dwight York was involved in a massive human trafficking operation said to have been comprised of as many of 1,000 people. On May 8, 2002, the Sheriff's Department of Georgia, with the aid of the FBI, shut the entire operation down. York was arrested and sentenced to a life sentence where he's still serving out his 135 years. One Georgia sheriff involved, Sheriff Sills, described the trafficking operation as the best kept secret in Georgia I'd seen in my 47 years as a police officer. The compound was seized and swiftly destroyed. Despite all this though, there are still members out there waiting. Number 5, the Bilderberg meeting. Starting us off today, we are going to be talking about the uber secretive Bilderberg meeting. Now this one is a little bit of a cheat because technically it's not really a society, but it refers to an annual gathering that definitely happens without any of us knowing, in secrecy, and involves a lot of key profile VIPs, so I'd say it qualifies. The first Bilderberg meeting dates all the way back to 1954 and was held at the Hotel de Bilderberg in the Netherlands, which is where the group has taken its name since. Convened by Prince Bernhard, the gathering was a collection collection of powerful politicians from North America and Europe, designed to foster warmer relations between the two continents among fear of growing anti-American sentiment in Europe. In layman's terms, the Bilderberg meeting is an annual meeting where high-ranking politicians agree to not start World War III just yet. You know, just not just yet. They'll do it eventually, but keep things cool for now. Now, because of this, the Bilderberg meeting has quite the guest list. It's a veritable who's who. Bill Clinton, Margaret Thatcher, Angela Merkel, Tony Blair, Henry Kissinger, Pete Davidson, to name a few. Now, what happens in these meetings is anyone's guess, as they're wrapped in complete and utter secrecy. The minutes are never released, and journalists are barred from reporting on it at all. In fact, I would not be surprised if this video was the first time you've ever even heard of this. The secrecy definitely paves the way for rumors, with the belief that the Bilderberg meeting is an extension of the Illuminati, with the members being part of the New World Order, conspiring to control the world behind the scenes. Now, the official website for the Bilderberg meeting maintains, thanks to the private nature of the meeting, the participants take part as individuals rather than in any official capacity, and hence are not bound by the conventions of their office or by positions, which definitely makes things more suspicious. We'll get to the bottom of this, I'm sure. But if you're looking for more conspiracies, well, Top 5 Scary has all of that and then some. We've got loads of things on secret societies, ghosts, ghouls, goblins, aliens, UFOs. If it's freaking you out, we've got a video or two on it, I promise you that. So hit subscribe, please do me a little favor and ring that little bell as well so you don't miss a single one of our videos. But do that at the end of this one, because I got 4 more secret societies that I'd love to tell you all about. Number 4, the Knights of Pythias. Coming up next is going to be the very mythical sounding Knights of Pythias. Oh, we love when a secret society is an order of knights. I love when something sounds like that. You know, they sound like I gotta go bring them an ancient crystal. The Knights of Pythias was founded by Justus H. Rathbone, a government employee in Washington, D.C. in 1864 who historically has one of the coolest names I've ever heard. Justus H. Rathbone. My god, that just rolls off the tongue. He felt there was an absolute moral need for an organization that practiced brotherly love. He loved Philadelphia, city of brotherly love. He was all about that. Around the same time, the country was involved in a bit of a punch-up, bit of a brother against brother, a bit of a civil war, you might call it. So brotherly love was needed. President Lincoln, upon learning of this group, expressed his approval of its mission and values, and the Knights became the first fraternal organization in the States to be chartered through an act of Congress. Now, the name is a reference to the Greek legend of Damon and Pythias, the Pythagorean ideal of friendship, which I guess means that this secret society in Washington, D.C. is the Knights of Friendship. That's adorable. All of its founding members worked for the government, and the Knights' colors are blue, yellow, and red. Blue signifying friendship, yellow charity, and red benevolence. The Knights of Pythias are still operating to this day, and are a partner of the Boy Scouts of America. That's hilarious. The second organization to receive its charter from the US Congress. That's the official hierarchy in America. It's Knights and then Boy Scouts. Now, interestingly, the Knights of Pythias, despite their very, very cool name, may very well be one of the only secret societies no one is writing any conspiracy theories about. I was looking, I really was, but the people in the tinfoil hats are not interested in the Knights of Pythias. Maybe it's because, unlike most other secret groups, the Knights really boldly announce that they're just all about friendship, and maybe people suspect they're not hiding anything, and maybe they're just totally genuine and all about friendship. That won't do for me. I think the whole friendship thing is a complete angle. I think the Knights of Pythias are doing something subliminal, something. They're hacking the airwaves somehow. We'll look into that. We're gonna get back to this.
And next at number 3, the cult of Isis. Popping over to ancient Egypt, the phrase death cult doesn't get more death-y than the cult of Isis. Incredibly popular with ancient Grecian and Roman society, the goddess Isis was central in the Old Kingdom's Osiris myth, where her husband, the divine king Osiris, was slain and resurrected by her hand. The mysteries of Isis were strangely popular in the ancient world, where initiates to the cult would undergo elaborate ritual purification before being brought into the innermost part of Isis' temple. The catch though was that they had to pledge their mortal soul to the goddess of rebirth. Sounds innocent enough, eh? But this often meant that somewhere, someone along the line was getting ritualistically sacrificed. Never good. Swinging in at number 2, Ashurism. We've covered these guys quite regularly in our demon series, but if you didn't know, Ashurism is pretty gnarly business. Known as the national cult of the Assyrian people, where the majority of ancient Assyria chose to worship a polytheistic religion with thousands thousands of different gods, similar to that of ancient Babylonia. They shared many creation myths to that of Judaism and Christianity, such as the Great Flood and the Tower of Babel. But what separates Ashurism is its fascination with demonism and their willingness to worship. For example, the tale of Lilith, Adam's first wife who went on to become the demonic queen of the succubi. Although you could argue that this is just in essence a collection of smaller cults, Ashurism didn't come into written fruition until after the fall of the Assyrian Empire, where these cults were continued to be worshipped in the surviving city of Assur. This became a melting pot for Ashurism, with the cults of Sin, Nikal, Bel, Nabu and Tammuz being twisted into a fervent blend of godhood and demonism. Mass ritualistic sacrifice, stake burnings, cannibalism, it all went down here, and it's not good. And finally at number 1, the Knights Templar. This wouldn't be an ancient cult list without everybody's favourite shadowy secret society, the Knights Templar. Also known as the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, that's a mouthful, the Knights Templar were a Catholic military order recognised in 1139 by the papal bull of the Holy See. Although records state that the Templar were active until about 1312, the order's main functionality was prominence in Christian finance. They managed a large economic infrastructure throughout the Christian world, developing financial techniques that would later become an early form of banking. In essence, they were the world's first multinational corporation, which has led many people to believe that they're still around to this very day, just in another form. Cue conspiracy music. Their initiation rites are still shrouded in secrecy, where outsiders were discouraged from attending the ceremony over fear of its sensitive nature. This led to the suspicion of medieval inquisitors and eventually the acquisition and execution of over 90% of the order's members who were burned at the stake. Well, what did they discover? Well, no one really knows, but it constituted a pretty harsh response from the church.